So, it's almost that time of the year again. Summer's coming up in just a few months, and just like last year, you're trying to get that head-turning summer beach body. But chances are the advice that was given to you last year was quite lackluster and didn't give you that six-pack which you wanted. In this video, I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to tell you exactly what I did to get my six-pack, and I'm going to go a step above and beyond and tell you the mistakes I made so that you can have an even better journey, because it will be a lot more smoother without mistakes. Despite what many people may tell you, you should train your core if you want a six-pack. It's a quite common belief that people hold that you shouldn't train it, you should just focus on the diet and abs are made in the kitchen. There is a lot of truth to this, but it's not entirely right. Sure, if you get into a calorie deficit for long enough and drop your body fat percentage, you're likely going to see your abs, but they won't look nearly as good. They won't look as aesthetic, as blocky, as defined as if you trained them consistently beforehand. So I don't really think it's a matter of one side being more important than the other. The gym isn't necessarily more important than the diet or vice versa. I just think you should focus on both. It shouldn't have to be either or. So what is the best way to train your core? The ab muscles should be trained a little bit differently compared to the other typical bodybuilder muscles, your biceps, triceps, and pecs. This is due to the fact that they play a role in posture. They're designed to be constantly active, trying to maintain your bodily positioning, trying to keep you stable. So for this reason, they have a different makeup compared to the typical muscles that I just mentioned a second ago. They have a higher amount of type 1 muscle fibers. These specialize in endurance. They're very fatigue resistant and they contract slowly. And they have a low amount of type 2 muscle fibers, which contract very fast and produce a lot of force and specialize in strength. So a good ab training routine will account for this fact and train in a much higher rep range, 15 to 30 plus most of the time. I say most of the time very specifically because while it is mostly type 1 muscle fibers in your abs, there's still type 2 muscle fibers. And if you don't train these, you'll be missing out on a lot of gains because they're the most growth prone fibers. They're more likely to grow and also bring a lot of functional benefits like strength and power. However, like I said, the ab muscles and all the other core muscles around it are comprised of an overwhelming majority of type 1 muscle fibers, so a good training routine will target these most frequently. So here's some good exercises you can do in your next gym session. Decline bench sit-ups are great. These are my personal favorite exercise. Normal sit-ups are a great option, don't get me wrong, but decline bench sit-ups allow you to hyperextend your hips, getting a really deep stretch, and this has been shown to be very beneficial for hypertrophy. And also there's just the fact that it gives you a bigger range of motion. Like I said, normal sit-ups are still a great option. Actually, most bodyweight exercises are. I know on the internet they get quite a bad rap because they're used in the 6-minute six-pack routines that you see online, which are clearly bullshit. You're going to need a lot more than just a 6-minute routine to see a lot of gains. Most of my ab training happens at my boxing gym, and there we do typically 15 to 30 minutes, oftentimes longer, just focused on pure ab training. And there we do your typical bodyweight exercises, your V sit-ups, leg raises, mountain climbers. And this is where I believe most of my ab gains actually came from. Also at my boxing gym, we do a lot of planks, but these aren't very good for hypertrophy. Don't get me wrong, planks are an extremely functional exercise. They're great for strength and muscular endurance, but because there's no range of motion, they don't put tension on that many different muscle fibers. In dynamic movements where you put the joints in different angles, it targets different muscle fibers, whereas planks only put it on a select few, the only ones that are used to hold that position. So for this reason, they're not good for hypertrophy, but I'll repeat it again, they're very functional, so they're not a bad exercise inherently. So these bodyweight exercises, your mountain climbers and all that, these target type 1 muscle fibers because they're really lightweight. But some good exercises for type 2 muscle fibers are going to need to be very much heavier and you're going to have to do lower reps with them. So you can add weight to the decline bench sit-ups by just grabbing a weight plate and hugging it against your chest. I try and aim for the 8 to 12 rep range when I do these and do 3 sets in between boxing sessions. You could also just add ankle weights to every bodyweight exercise just to add more resistance. So there's a lot more muscles than just the abs in your core. There's the obliques, internal and external. I'm going to make a whole other video on this topic because I think it's very interesting and it deserves its own separate video. This video is just focusing on your typical six-pack abs. So now I've given you some great examples of exercises that you could do. As for how often you should do these exercises, a good rule of thumb I use is just trying to do them as much as I can when I'm not sore, and I also try to avoid doing it 2 days running. So at most you'll be doing 1 day on, 1 day off, but chances are you're going to get quite sore from these exercises, so it's going to be more like 1 day on, 2 days rest, and then another day. And then actually to prevent your abs from getting sore, you can stretch your abs. The single best exercise I believe is the cobra stretch. Basically get into a push-up position, drive your hips into the ground as much as you can, pushing your chest forwards. You should feel a stretch right along your belly. Hold this for 30 seconds, rest for a minute and repeat that 3 times. This should prevent you from getting really sore and improve your recovery so you can train more frequently and get more gains. So that's all I've got for today. If you found this video useful, consider subscribing because there's going to be plenty more where this came from.